The moment the entire class could suddenly hear my thoughts, a series of glowing comments, like a chat feed in a video game, scrolled through my vision. Before I could even process the first miracle, the second one clarified my nightmare. Here we go. The villainess is about to play the victim and frame our girl with her inner monologue. This is exactly what she did in the last life. She falsely accused our girl of bullying and got her ostracized by the whole class. Too bad for her, our girl is a reincarnator. She knows all the tricks. The villainess is about to get owned. A mind-reading superpower versus a second chance at life, interesting. But who said anything about framing her? My plan was much simpler. I was going to lift her so high she'd have nowhere to go but down. Ascend costs what, $300 a person? And Scarlett, our dear class president, knows I can't afford that. Is this her way of publicly humiliating me? The thought had barely formed when Scarlett, standing at the front of the classroom, glanced my way. A subtle, knowing smirk played on her lips. It was a look that dripped with condescension. So the comments were right. Not only had Scarlett lived this life before, but she could also hear my thoughts right now. The invisible commenters were tearing me apart. This girl is such a snake. If she cried into a river, it'd turn into poison ivy. She knows Scarlett would never do that, but she's planting the idea in everyone's heads. Anyway, good thing our girl is one step ahead of her cheap tricks. So what if she's the real heiress? In the end, even her billionaire parents are embarrassed by her. Scarlett is in a different league entirely. I mean, you've got to feel a little sorry for the villain, switched at birth by the nanny, dumped on a mountain to die just to protect a secret. That's no excuse for what she did to our girl. She used her powers to ruin her life and nearly get her killed. She deserves everything she gets. Wait, the comments said. I'm the real heiress. All this time, Scarlett had been treated like royalty. She wasn't just from a wealthy family, she was the sterling heiress, daughter of the city's most famous CEO. On top of that, she was always number one in our class rankings. Me? My father was sick in bed, my mother worked odd jobs to keep us afloat, and at school I was inevitably number 2, right behind Scarlett. But now this invisible audience was telling me I was the one who was supposed to have it all. Well, this game just got a lot more interesting. A cruel glint appeared in Scarlett's eyes. She was about to speak to expose me, but I beat her to it, broadcasting a new thought for the entire class to hear. I'm being paranoid. Scarlett would never deliberately humiliate someone. She's always been so kind and considerate. She must have chosen Ascend for another reason. I let the thought hang in the air for a second before adding the masterstroke. Wait, what if she's planning on treating the whole school? Maybe she mentioned it to our class first so we wouldn't feel awkward when she made the big announcement, a surprise for everyone before graduation. The effect was instantaneous. Jessica, who lived for gossip, shot up from her seat. No way, Scarlett, are you really treating the whole school? That's amazing. The classroom exploded. Ascend? I've only seen that place on TV. Scarlett, you're the best. That must cost a fortune. Of course she can. She's a sterling. Scarlett's smile froze. Her fingers dug into the lectern, the veins stood out on the back of her hands. I saw a flash of pure panic in her eyes. According to the comments, her original plan was to look generous in front of our class, win some points, and put me in my place, a simple, effective power play. Since she wanted to look generous, I was happy to help. All I did was push her onto a much bigger stage. Now, with Jessica's outburst, every eye in the room was on her. The entire school had almost 1,000 students. At $300 a head, she was looking at a bill of around $300,000. She was clearly not happy about it. She opened her mouth to backpedal, to find an excuse, so I gave everyone another little nudge. Or maybe I got it all wrong, I thought aloud for the class. Maybe she never intended to treat anyone. Of course a place like Ascend isn't for people like me. I was getting ahead of myself, thinking I could ever belong in the same room as her. The mood shifted. Other students' expressions turned speculative. If she backed down now after that thought, she'd look like a cheap, manipulative bully. Scarlett's face was a patchwork of red and white. She stared at me, eyes burning with a hatred so pure it was almost beautiful. But dozens of phones were already out, secretly recording. If she said no, the perfect persona she'd spent years building would shatter. After a long, tense silence, She took a deep breath and forced a smile that looked more like a grimace. You've all worked so hard this year. Consider it my treat, a dinner at Ascend for the entire student body to wish you luck on your finals. The room erupted in thunderous applause. Scarlett had just saved face. The look she gave me promised murder. She was probably furious enough to spontaneously combust. The thought made me ridiculously happy. Meeting her venomous gaze, I slowly, deliberately lifted my chin and mouthed two silent words, "Thank you." The comment feed went insane. Holy shit. The villainess just roasted her alive. She totally backed her into a corner. You can plan for the enemy, but you can't plan for idiots? Wait a minute, isn't our girl supposed to be a reincarnator? How did she not see that move coming? 1,000 people at Ascend, that's like 300K. The villainess played her hard. The final bell for study hall had barely faded when I packed my bag and took the long way home through the poorly lit alley that always felt dangerous. The comments had already told me Scarlett would be waiting. Sure enough, as I rounded the first corner, 5 or 6 guys with cheap dyed hair and bad attitudes stepped out of the shadows, blocking my path. A moment later, Scarlett emerged behind them, her shadow stretching long and distorted under a single flickering street lamp. Well, Chloe. You've grown a backbone. She strolled toward me, her voice dripping with venom. Who gave you the nerve to play games with me? I lowered my eyes, making myself small, feigning fear. Scarlett, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Did I do something to make you mad? My mind, however, was broadcasting something else entirely. What is she doing? This isn't right. She shouldn't be able to hear my thoughts. She must be bluffing, trying to trick me into admitting I have a power. Scarlett let out a cold, sharp laugh and lunged forward, grabbing a fistful of my hair and yanking my head back. The dinner at Ascend, that was you, wasn't it? How did you know? The words slipped out before I could stop them. I immediately clamped my mouth shut and widened my eyes as if I'd revealed a secret. Her face lit up with smug triumph. She let go of my hair and patted my shoulder, her touch a mockery of comfort. Did you really think your pathetic little schemes were a secret? To me, you're nothing but a clown. She flicked her chin toward the goons. Do it. And remember, stick to places clothes will cover. No visible marks. They closed in. Fists and feet landed on my back and sides, the pain was sharp. I curled into a ball on the filthy asphalt, able to do nothing but let out choked sobs. Scarlett stood there watching, a cruel smile on her face as if she were enjoying a particularly satisfying movie. After what felt like an eternity, they stopped. Scarlett walked over and used the toe of her expensive shoe to tilt my chin up. She looked down at me, contempt on her face. 300,000 is nothing to me, Chloe. I don't care about the money. But shouldn't you care about whether your parents live or die? My eyes shot open in genuine fear. What are you going to do? I managed. She smiled. Your mother having that street sweeping job? That's a gift from me. She drew the words out slowly. What do you think would happen to your family if I had her fired? I trembled, scrambling up onto my knees and bowing my head, knocking my forehead against the cold, gritty concrete. I'm sorry, Scarlett. I was wrong. It was a moment of stupidity. I'll never go against you again. I'll do whatever you say. Just please don't hurt my parents. The act hurt, but it had to be convincing. It worked. Scarlett's smile widened. She bent down and patted my cheek, condescending. See? That's much better. Remember your place. Crushing you is as easy as stepping on an ant. With that, she turned and walked away, her entourage trailing behind her. I stayed on the ground until their footsteps disappeared. Then slowly I pushed myself up. The terror in my eyes had been replaced by an icy calm. The throbbing pain in my body was real, but it was nothing compared to the path I had to walk. The comments scrolled furiously. Yes, that's how you do it. You can't go soft on a snake like her. Teach her a lesson. Let's see her try to scheme against our girl now. Scarlett is too kind. If it were me, I'd have her whole family run out of town. A small, unnoticeable smile touched my lips. Pathetic. They would all soon find out who the truly pathetic one was. The grand feast at Ascend was just another trap I had set for her, and she was walking right into it. At the weekend party, Scarlett was the undisputed center of the universe in a champagne-colored silk gown, a diamond necklace glittering at her throat that probably cost more than my house. The moment she saw me standing hesitantly at the entrance, a flicker of triumph crossed her face. "Chloe, you finally made it," she said, gathering her dress and gliding over, her voice pitched loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "You're so practical, Chloe, wearing your school uniform to a party. It's refreshing. So clean and simple compared to all of this." Her words were a masterclass in backhanded compliments and drew a ripple of cruel laughter from the surrounding students. Someone called out, "A uniform, Chloe, are things that bad at home? You can't even afford a single nice dress." I looked down, feigning embarrassment. Out of the corner of my eye I saw a waiter pass with a tray of champagne flutes right on schedule. As the comments had predicted, the show was about to begin. A second later, someone accidentally bumped the waiter. The tray tilted, glasses shattered, and golden liquid splashed across a nearby student's designer dress. The waiter, a middle-aged woman, went pale and bowed frantically, apologizing over and over. "I'm so sorry, so sorry." The student shrieked, pointing at the woman. "Do you have any idea how much this dress costs? You're going to pay for this." Then a voice from the crowd mused aloud, "Hey, doesn't she look familiar?" Another voice answered, "Yeah, she's the one who sweeps the streets near our school. I think that's Chloe's mom." A lightning bolt of silence struck the room. Every head swiveled from the terrified waiter to me. Their gazes were filled with mockery and disgust. So Chloe's mom is a street sweeper? No wonder she wore her uniform. They really are. That poor Scarlett stood in the middle of it all with a faint, "Please smile. Don't say that, guys. You'll hurt Chloe's feelings. It's not her fault her mom sweeps streets for a living." The comments were a chorus of praise for her cruelty. "Savage. A total fatality. The villainess is completely humiliated. Best move ever. Paying a few $100 to hire her mom as a server just to expose her in front of the whole school, genius." Scarlett didn't even have to say a word, she let everyone else do the dirty work for her. I remained silent, counting down in my head, 3, 2, 1. What is going on here? A deep, commanding male voice cut through the chatter from the doorway, carrying an authority that could not be ignored. A hush fell over the ballroom. The crowd instinctively turned toward the source of the voice. Standing at the doorway was a tall man in an impeccably tailored black suit, his expression unreadable. His presence carried an effortless authority that silenced even the boldest gossipers. The students parted like a tide as he stepped inside, each stride slow and deliberate. "Mr. Sterling," someone whispered, awestruck. "That's Scarlett's father." Scarlett's perfect smile faltered for the first time. "Dad, what are you doing here? I thought you were overseas." He didn't respond immediately. His sharp gaze swept across the room, taking in the glittering chandeliers, the trembling waiter, the shattered glass, and finally me, standing alone in my school uniform beside the humiliated woman who was indeed my mother. The silence stretched, thick enough to choke on. Then, in a calm but cutting tone, he said, "Scarlett, I received a call from the management of Ascend. They said a minor booked the entire venue under my name with a down payment of $300,000. Care to explain?" The color drained from her face. It was just a class event," she stammered. "I wanted to surprise everyone. A graduation gift." He held up a hand, stopping her mid-sentence. "A gift from my company account?" His voice sharpened, every syllable precise as a blade. "And now I find my daughter turning this event into a spectacle to humiliate a classmate's family?" Whispers rippled through the room. Scarlett's carefully constructed image, kind, generous, untouchable, was cracking before everyone's eyes. "I didn't mean to," she began, but he cut her off again. "Enough. You will apologize to this girl and her mother. Right now." Scarlett froze. For the first time, her mask slipped entirely. Anger, humiliation, and disbelief flashed across her face, emotions she could no longer hide. "Dad, she's not who you think she is. She..." "Scarlett." His tone was warning enough. Her eyes flicked toward me, blazing with silent hatred. Slowly, she turned to my mother, who was still shaking and clutching the empty tray. "I'm sorry," she muttered, her voice trembling with suppressed fury. Then she turned to me. "And you too, Chloe. It was the most insincere apology I had ever heard, but it didn't matter. Because while everyone else saw a spoiled heiress getting scolded, I saw something far more valuable: fear. Scarlett Sterling was finally afraid. Mr. Sterling turned toward me next. "You're Chloe, yes?" I nodded, trying to keep my expression neutral, but my heart was pounding in my chest. "I owe you and your mother an apology on behalf of my daughter," he said gravely. "Ascend is no place for such cruelty. Please, both of you, allow me to arrange proper transportation home. And tomorrow, I'll ensure this incident is handled." Before I could respond, Scarlett snapped, "Dad, she doesn't need your charity." His gaze turned icy. "Then perhaps you should learn what charity means, young lady. Because from tomorrow onward, you will be volunteering in the city's sanitation department. Maybe then you'll understand dignity." The heir left the room. The Sterling heiress, sentenced to work alongside street sweepers? It was unthinkable. Gasps filled the hall. I lowered my eyes, hiding the flicker of satisfaction that threatened to curl my lips. The comments inside my head were exploding. "She's done for. Instant karma, love to see it. The villainess just got demoted to background character status. Our girl really turned the tables this time." But I wasn't done yet. As my mother and I prepared to leave, Mr. Sterling approached me again. "One more thing," he said quietly. "You mentioned earlier that you couldn't afford Ascend. Is that true?" "Yes, sir," I said softly. "My family's been struggling." He frowned, thoughtful. "Then it seems my daughter's behavior caused more damage than I imagined. If you're willing, I'd like to offer you a scholarship. The Sterling Foundation funds capable students from disadvantaged families. It would cover your final year's tuition and living expenses." The room erupted again. Scarlett looked like she'd been slapped. "Dad," she hissed. "You can't just..." But he ignored her, extending a business card toward me. I accepted it with a polite nod. "Thank you, Mr. Sterling." When I looked back at Scarlett, her face was pale, her knuckles white as she clutched her gown. That night, as my mother and I left Ascend, the chill of the evening air brushed against my bruised ribs. She kept glancing at me, guilt clouding her tired eyes. "Chloe, sweetheart. I didn't know she was your classmate. If I'd known..." I smiled faintly. "Don't worry, Mom. She won't bother us again." But inside, I knew this was only the beginning. Scarlett Sterling had been publicly humiliated, stripped of her image, and forced to serve the very people she once looked down upon. Yet someone like her wouldn't break easily. And I couldn't afford to underestimate her. The comments had already shifted tone, the chat feed glowing faintly in the air. "She's got the upper hand now, but beware. Main characters always bounce back. True, Scarlett won't take this lying down. Expect a counterattack. Our girl better watch her back." I tilted my head, smiling to myself as the headlights of Mr. Sterling's car faded into the distance. "Oh, I'm counting on it," I murmured under my breath. Because when she did strike back, I'd be ready. By Monday morning, Ascend was the only thing anyone could talk about. Clips of Scarlett's frozen smile, of her bowing a fraction too shallow during her apology, of Mr. Sterling's sentence about sanitation, every hallway whisper carried the aftershocks. Phones glowed under desks. The comment feed above my vision thrummed like a hive. Downfall arc unlocked. She had it coming. Careful, villains always have a second phase. The principal called us in before first period. Mr. Sterling was already there with a lawyer, the school counselor, and, unexpectedly, a police officer. The lawyer placed a clear plastic bag on the table, a smashed burner phone, a set of brass knuckles, and a cheap bottle of hair dye with brown fingerprints along the cap. "Recovered near the alley behind Oak Street," the officer said. "Anonymous tip with coordinates." I kept my face still. The anonymous tip had been a scheduled email from a throwaway account. The burner phone contained messages naming times, places, and a fee for keeping it below the collarbone. The goons had used voice notes, the timestamps matched the night I'd been jumped. Scarlett's jaw locked. Anyone can plant that. Mr. Sterling's gaze didn't waver. And yet, the city camera at Oak and 3rd, installed for traffic, caught a group converging on a single figure. It isn't perfect, but the shadows are consistent with your silhouette and those of your friends. I slid a second item onto the table, a tiny black clip with a cracked lens. A hair clip, I said quietly. I wore it that night. It was recording. The room went very still. The lawyer pressed play. We didn't need the video, the audio was enough. Scarlett's voice, controlled, then cold, then instructing them where to head, cut through the tiny speaker like glass. When the recording ended, even the comment feed fell silent for a breath. Monsters don't look in mirrors, a lone line finally scrolled. They look out the window. Scarlett stared at me, hatred like a lit fuse. Then she swung to her father. She's framing me, Dad, she's been manipulating everyone's thoughts. You saw her at Ascend. She made them think I. Enough, he said softly. The softness was worse than a shout. You will cooperate fully. If Chloe presses charges, you will answer for them. I didn't look at Scarlett. I looked at the officer. I'll file a report, I said. But I also want a restraining order. The decision tasted like iron. The comments pulsed in approval and in outrage, split down the middle. Justice versus mercy. Story versus life. That afternoon, the sanitation department issued Scarlett her reflective vest. Students gathered on corners to gawk. Paparazzi trailed from a polite distance, their long lenses blinking like insect eyes. I accompanied my mother along her route, as I did sometimes on days when the sky looked too low. Scarlett pushed a broom with stiff, jerky motions. A few girls from our class filmed her. She lifted her chin, a queen conscripted into peasantry, jaw clenched so tight the muscles fluttered beneath her skin. And then a voice from the curb said, soft and startled, that lullaby. An older woman with a grocery sack had stopped dead beside me. Her eyes, milky with age, narrowed first at Scarlett, then at me. With a trembling hand she traced the air beside my hairline, not touching. That scar, every night in the neonatal ward I hummed and hummed. Little star, little star. 2 babies, 2 tags. 1 tag turned upside down, the ink smeared. I told them the numbers didn't match. They told me to mind my job. She shut her eyes. I didn't. I wrote it down. And then they transferred me. I thought, if I ever saw that face again, I'd know. But I never expected to. The comment feed detonated. Side character drop, this is it. Nanny confession arc. Receipts or it didn't happen. The woman fumbled in her bag and pulled out a tattered envelope, edges gone soft with years. Inside were 2 hospital bracelet tabs sealed in clear film, the ink on one blurred, the surname Sterling stamped twice, once over whiteout, the other tab, my mother's surname, with an identical timestamp. I kept them, she whispered. I was wrong to wait. My mother's fingers shook as she took the envelope. The grocery sack slid to the sidewalk, oranges rolled in bright little suns. Across the street, a reporter's camera clicked like a metronome. Scarlett went rigid, the broom bristles squealing against concrete. Mr. Sterling arrived in less than an hour. Someone had called him, I didn't need to know who. He approached the woman with a caution I hadn't seen before, a man used to contracts stepping into a church. She repeated her story. He didn't look at me until the very end. Will you come to the hospital with me? He asked. Both of you. The test took 2 days. In that time the comment feed became a courthouse gallery. Vets, theories, pity, bile. A few lines I wanted to pry off my skull and burn. My mother worked her shifts. I went to school. Scarlett didn't meet my eyes, and I didn't seek hers. At night I stared at the ceiling and rehearsed every possible ending. On Wednesday, we were called to a small conference room with gray chairs and a pot of coffee that tasted like coins. The lab technician set down 2 folders. Mr. Sterling's hands were steady as he opened the first one and then the second. He looked at me. I braced. He nodded once, a soldier acknowledging a battlefield map. It's conclusive, he said. You are my daughter. My mother made a sound I couldn't categorize, laugh and sob welded together. She crushed my hand in both of hers. The comment feed went white hot, then weirdly hushed, as if the spectators had risen to their feet all at once. Main character reveal secured. Q redemption arc. Or ruin. Depends who writes it. Scarlett stood like a statue that had been struck but refused to crack. For a long moment, there was no expression on her face at all. Then something ugly and human broke through, grief, yes, and terror, and a child's naked fear of being set outside in the snow. "I won't leave my mom," I said, my voice very clear. It surprised me, how clear it was. Biology doesn't undo the life we have. It adds to it. It doesn't replace it. Mr. Sterling swallowed. "Nor would I ask you to. But I won't pretend I don't want to know you. I can make offers, tuition, protections, choices. They will be offers, not orders." He turned, finally, to Scarlett. "As for you, we will face what is ours to face. The law will take its course." Scarlett's lips trembled. "You're just going to trade me in?" A lifetime of polish couldn't hide the child beneath. I didn't move toward her. I did not forgive the alley, the boot on my chin, the deliberate hiring of my mother to humiliate us. But I also recognized the void opening behind her eyes. "I'm not trading anyone," I said. "I'm setting terms." I laid them out. She would make a public apology, to my mother, to the students she'd weaponized, to the workers she mocked. She would pay for the vandalized equipment and sanitation that magically broke the first morning of her service. She would fund a scholarship in the name of the woman from the curb for hospital whistleblowers who came forward with evidence. She would plead guilty to misdemeanor assault. The plea would be part of the record. And she would leave my family alone. "And if I don't?" she asked, brittle. "Then I'll press every charge I can press," I said. "And I'll make sure every minute of that audio plays in open court." The lawyer cleared his throat. "These are reasonable proposals," he said carefully. "Uncomfortable, but reasonable." Scarlett looked at her father. He didn't save her. That, more than anything, convinced her that the story had changed. Slowly, as if the air had thickened to honey, she nodded. The apology happened on the auditorium stage the next day. She read from a paper and then, unexpectedly, she stopped reading and looked up. "I thought power meant never having to say sorry," she said. "I was wrong." It was not eloquent. It was not enough. It was, however, true, and truth has a frequency that hums the bones. The comments filtered it, parsed it, judged it. Some sneered. Some softened. It was not my job to shepherd their feelings down one lane or the other. Afterward, I climbed the empty stairs to the school's roof. The city stretched away in smudged watercolor, scaffolds and cranes and distant cranes' shadows. For once the comment feed was quiet. I realized, with a start, that I could push it away simply by choosing not to listen. It didn't vanish, it receded, the way the ocean recedes when you walk inland. Mr. Sterling joined me a few minutes later, just close enough that we shared the wind. He didn't speak at first. "When you were a baby," he said finally, "I sang the wrong words to a lullaby for weeks because I didn't want to admit I didn't know them. Your mother laughed at me until she cried. I thought of that when the woman spoke in the street." He took a slow breath. "I don't want to buy my way into your life. But I'd like to build a bridge, if you'll let me." "I'll walk across it," I said. "Sometimes. With my mother." He smiled with one corner of his mouth, as if that concession was a palace. "Then we'll start with dinner. Somewhere that doesn't cost $300 a head." We stood, letting the silence be a room we both could inhabit. Down below, students spilled from the auditorium in chattering streams. I could almost hear the feed stir back to life, faint as moth wings. "Villainous defanged. Girl boss ascends. No, girl chooses. Different verb." At home, my mother taped the hospital bracelet tab to the inside of a photo album. We ate noodles at the chip table and laughed when the cat tried to steal a fishball. Later, I lay in the dark and turned the comments down until they were nothing more than background static, like rain against glass. This life was not a script, no matter how many voices tried to write it for me. At graduation, Scarlett shook my hand on stage. We didn't smile for the cameras. After, as confetti papered the gym floor, she approached me alone. "You didn't destroy me," she said, bewildered and resentful and relieved all at once. "I didn't need to," I said. "You're not my ending." Years from now, people will argue about where the story really ended. Some will say it was Ascend, others will swear it was the hospital, a few will insist it was the roof. I think it ended the first time I realized I could plant a thought and then chose not to. On the walk home, the sunset bled into gold down Oak Street. The city smelled like oranges and summer dust. I reached for my mother's hand and felt her squeeze back. Above us, the sky did not comment. It just held.